Week on the Documentary Review Podcast. It's a big night here, folks. Jonathan and I are ready to hand out some hardware. It's the 2015 Documentary Review Podcast Awards.
Woo!
Welcome to the podcast. I'm PT.
I'm Jonathan. Glad you can join us for this special night.
Oh my gosh, it's such a big night. I could not sleep last night. It's crazy. I was just thinking about like how many more listeners we're going to have in this episode. This is the one everyone's been waiting for. Holy cow!
Sure,
It's
I'm
gonna
sure
be good.
there's obviously every director of every
Yeah,
documentary that we reviewed is listening tonight. Winners, big losers.
yeah, and they're. I feel bad. We're going to break a lot of hearts tonight, but we're going to make a few people happy too.
We are a lot of
And,
good, lot of great documentaries this year. So.
indeed, and you're looking good, Jonathan. I must say, you are.
Thanks. I dressed up for the occasion. I see you did too. That's probably is that
Well,
your nicest hoodie?
yeah, I'm wearing the University of Wisconsin lacrosse sweatshirt, which is known for their great documentary film program. So I didn't want to like be pretentious. I just wanted to keep it down to earth and keep it like, because we're all about the real documentary filmmakers here. So,
Absolutely.
that's what I was going for. First of all, congratulations, Jonathan, on a year of podcasting. This is we did our first podcast on December 19th, so we're just a few days
Oh,
past our 1 year anniversary here.
right back at you. Happy anniversary, PT.
Yeah. Does it feel like a year? Does it feel like more than a year? What do you?
No, it doesn't seem like it could possibly been a year, but look at that. Here we
I
are.
know.
So we got to be like, you know, in the upper echelon of podcasters to complete the year anniversary. I mean, I know there's some out there that have been going a long, long time, but
Yeah, I mean, we're like I would say, yeah, there's a good percentage that drop off after less than 10 episodes. So once you make it to the 10 episode, then you're probably going to stick with it for a while, I would think. But yeah, we got to be the longest run. We should check on this because I want to be able to say we're the longest running documentary film podcast out there. So there you go.
we'll have to do some research. But I think we.
There are some other documentary podcasts out there, but we bring the people's perspective. They're all like legit and like talking about lenses and stuff. We don't get into
Oh
that.
yeah, we don't deal with that stuff.
Yeah, we're keeping it real with the people. So okay, so if you're tuning in for the first time, I can see people turning into this for the first time, being like, let me check out what the best stuff is. All right, if you're like, I wonder what the best documentary of 2015 is, I'm going to listen to this show. That's not really what we're doing. That's not really what we're doing here. We're talking about the best documentaries that we watched and reviewed on this show this year. So we're not like really hitting the new releases. But what we do is we review documentaries on Netflix, basically, occasionally other streaming services. So we're going to talk about the best ones we saw this year in various categories. So it's going to be good. Anything to say before we dive right in, Jonathan?
No. Yeah, so we did approximately. I chose between. I had 46 documentaries on the list. There were a few others that we did that didn't, for some reason, didn't post or not, or something like that. So I didn't include those in choices for the awards because I wanted anyone to be able to go back and listen to the podcast we've done about those specific documentaries. So I don't know if you did the same or not, but yeah, we got 46 to choose from over the last year.
Good deal. No, I did not do that. I think I have one that didn't post on that won one of my awards. Yeah, there's a couple episodes where like the audio was so bad and like we were dropping in and out and stuff so bad that I was like, I'm not putting these up with the feed. But yeah, so I'm excited. Should we get right into it?
Yeah, let's dive in. Let's you go ahead and you pick the categories. We'll follow. I'll follow your lead.
All right, let's start out with the chipper category. Let's say, what is the saddest moment we've seen this year, Jonathan?
Boy, now there were quite a few sad moments in documentaries. So this one was I actually all the categories were really tough. We had a lot of great things to choose from. My saddest moment in all the documentaries came from the documentary Winter on Fire, about the revolution in Ukraine. And it is when there is a protester who's coming to help another protester who's been shot. And that guy is shot dead on camera and just slouches over his eyes. And it's like moment, especially because like it just emphasizes how like sad that moment of death is, where there's nothing magical happens. It's just a bullet fired from a sniper and a man slumping over, and it just like, to me, it was just crushing. So that was my saddest moment of I think all the documentaries.
Nice.
But how about you? Where was your head at on
That was a good one.
saddest moment?
That was a good one. I didn't think of that one. That's probably better than mine. What I want, like, I thought about this was one of my harder categories because I thought of a lot of things like I was thinking of in life itself when Roger Ebert like tells his wife like just let me die or whatever. But then I was thinking like that's not really shown. Like we hear that story, but it's not really a moment that's shown on camera. So I tried to discount any of those moments that were talked about as sad, but we didn't actually see. So the one I went with was in the documentary All This Mayhem, which is about uh, skateboarders. It was the moment at the end of the documentary when one of the skateboarders, we've seen him go through all this stuff, and he's I don't know, remember how old he is. I want to say he's like 40 or something at the end, and and then at the end he's like, yeah, now I'm working on getting my professional skating career back. I'm gonna be back on the king of the mountain again. So it's just like, oh, we've seen him go through all this stuff. I'm like, clearly he's not learned too many lessons from that. That was my moment.
Right. No, I like where your head was at on that one, because like I had one of my saddest moments, like for runners up, if you will, for me on saddest moments, was from Hoop Dreams, where the one kid in Capri Green is turning 18, and his mom is cooking his birthday meal. And while she's cooking, she's talking to the camera, and she's like, "Yeah, you know what? This is a big deal. My son's turning 18. Not a lot of kids make it to 18, so I think he did a really good job. He's still alive." It's like,
Right.
whoa, that's a kid in America, in the United States of America, a first world country, and that's the benchmark for a mother's, parental pride, is to say, "Hey, my child's not dead." I was like, wow, that is so messed up on so many levels and so sad. But
Right. No, that's a good one for sure.
yeah, yeah. So that was definitely on my list of potential saddest moments too. But I like the Roger Ebert one. Like I really thought about that. There were a couple documentaries that I I probably, like, one thing I did on all my awards or my list was I tried not to double up, or to do it as least possible. There are a
Right.
couple standout documentaries we did this year that probably could have hit quite a few categories. So, and Life Itself was one of those where I was like, I can't give another one to Life Itself. So I really,
Yeah. No, I did the same. I tried to spread it out where possible.
yeah.
Um, all right. So we'll move on to most inspiring moment.
Let's do it.
This is a big category. Maybe we should have saved this one for later, but it's like in the Academy Awards. They don't want you to get too bored, so every once in a while they
Right,
throw you a bone with like someone like, oh, here's the best actress or whatever.
right. And this was actually my hardest category by far.
Oh,
Because one, there were so many inspiring moments in so many documentaries throughout the year, and then like two, I was having like, I remember like so many times when I watched a documentary and I was like literally inspired by like a moment of, or a line in the documentaries, and it was really hard for me to go back and like recall like those exact moments. I mean, I remember the
right.
documentaries that really did it for me, but like anyway, so it took me. It was a tough one for me, and I ended up going with and I picked more of a general one than a specific moment, but it was Roger Ebert's fight against cancer, specifically like when he like loses his jaw and he still continues to, you know, to go out, and he doesn't roll over at that point. He still continues to fight and write and blog and inspire other people. So I thought that was, for me, the most inspiring moment of uh,
Nice.
the documentaries.
Good one. Good one. Um, for me, I picked in the movie Indie Games when Super Meat Boy is released and like the release date of that, and it's all a big success and like all their crazy dream has come true or whatever. Uh, so it was a very inspiring moment for me.
Well, good. I'm glad you picked that, because like Indie Games was something that I don't think made any of my final cuts, but it was one that I was like, oh, I feel kind of bad that Indie Games
All right.
didn't make my list in any categories. But I'm glad you picked it. That was a great documentary. Uh, I went and actually bought and played Super Meat Boy after seeing that.
Oh,
Just
nice.
not necessarily because I really wanted to get into the video game, which is really fun, by the way. But I just I saw the creators and how cool those guys were and how passionate they were, so I wanted to support them and purchase
Nice.
their game.
Very cool. The side question, Jonathan. Do you think what are the odds? Do you think that we're going to have the same answer for any of the rest of these categories? What would be the Vegas odds that you would take on that?
You know, I'm gonna give it 20% because I think there's a chance we're gonna have the same number one best documentary of the year.
Okay.
That's the only category I think it might happen in, but
Okay.
probably not. How about you? What are your Vegas odds on this?
I think 20% is probably pretty fair. I would probably go like 10%, but I don't know. There's a lot of questions, so we could easily.
Yeah, I would have gone 10%. I said I think we're gonna have the same best, which will be a little disappointing, but we'll see.
Right. All right. Anything else on inspired moments before we move on?
No, there were tons of great, inspiring overall documentaries. I thought that was an inspiring one that just said like, hey, you know, as a species, we're willing to come together just for a search for knowledge with no other, you know, motivation, but just to learn out, you know, what else is out there. You know, Man on Wire, I thought was really inspirational. You got, you know, again, just somebody not to essentially climb a mountain because it's there kind of a thing, to do the impossible just because. You know, and then I even put down what was it? If Desert Runners, that was another one that again, like that one, I still PT and I are both going to do together a half marathon because how inspirational Desert Runners was. So that'll be 2016.
That's right.
But anyway, yeah. So anyway, that's it. Lots of inspirational. If you're in the mood for inspiration, send us an email. I can send you a big list of
Yeah.
documentaries that'll be amazing.
We should. Yeah, I was thinking we should. I was thinking about on our website. I need to do some categories. I need to do like Jonathan 5 stars and PT's 5 stars and like both 5 stars. So you can just click and see what we've all rated 5 stars and like do some categories like inspiration and stuff.
Yeah, getting ready for the awards really made me realize our some organizational search qualities, because it was like, oh, this is terrible. Like everything we've done. Yeah, we need to work on that.
Right. I mean, hopefully most people are just doing it on iTunes anyway. But anyway,
Sure.
All right. The highest production quality. What do you got?
You know, I think I went with Fed Up. I think that literally was. I mean, like, you know, there were some other contenders for it, but that one really, you could tell they just dumped a ton of money into everything from like the graphics to the research to the actual like film quality, and so that was my choice for highest production quality.
Nice, good one. Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but now that you bring it up, that probably is the correct answer. If we actually looked at the budgets, I went with Muscle Shoals, and I don't know if it actually was, but it may have just been that they had like the best cinematographer of any documentary, because their cinematography was definitely awesome. Like even when they were interviewing people, and I just remember like a million just super beautiful shots of the landscape and stuff like that. So I may just be confusing their cinematography for their production value, but it felt expensive. How's that?
You're right. The like that was on my list, even though I don't think it was the most expensive. But like visually, it was, you know, the cinematography of the documentary was amazing. Beautiful shots. Same Conga, also having shots of the, you know, the Conga and you know, every little piece of that lamp. I mean, that one really had a low production value because it just happened to have like amazing things you could take footage of all around you. I think most that is, but it was high production quality for Muscle Shoals. Tons of great, you know, people, like top quality people were actually interviewed for that. So,
right,
yeah,
good deal.
You anything else on production? Would you the runners up?
Didn't have any runners up, I guess. How about yourself?
Well, I had Muscle Shoals, so that was actually on mine, and then I had Man on Wire as well as one that because they did a bunch of reenactments and they brought in old footage and they, you know, again, high quality video and
Oh, we cut out.
Wire was my one of my runners up for best production quality.
Cool, cool. I guess Soaked in Bleach probably had pretty. I bet that it had some money poured into it. I bet it cost some money to do those recreations and stuff. Even though I didn't
Yeah,
like them,
probably.
I bet they dropped some money in there.
Right. I thought they, unlike Man on Wire, that was just gave you something to look at while the people are actually telling about the events. But
All right. Um, all right. How about your most informative documentary?
now this is with so many informational, you know, uh, documentaries, and I considered all kinds of different angles on that category too. But I did end up going with Cool It, which was the environmental documentary. Um, and I can't remember his name, Bjorn or something like that.
Sure, something like that.
Anyway, the guy from something like that from them that was wrote the skeptical list and really did dump a ton of information on you about his points of view on the environment and how we should be focusing our efforts to you know make the world a better environmental place for future generations.
Nice.
So I went with that. You?
Cool. Cool. It might be coming up later for in another category for me, but for this one, I went with, and this is an unlikely choice, but I went with the very first documentary we ever watched, Sam. So I felt like that was just a world that I knew nothing about, and I came away feeling like I was very informed about that world that I didn't know anything about. So, did it teach me like a grand important topic? No, but I feel like it did educate me in that one little weird corner of the world.
Absolutely. I think that was a good way to look at it too. Because again, for me, that was really informative. I didn't know that much about the man himself and what, other than the boxing side of his life. I didn't know anything else really about him. And, I even thought about life itself for that category because like it was really, other than, I mean, you really got an in-depth look at Roger Ebert and like his whole life history and like even the behind the scenes stuff, his battle with alcoholism and his wife and things that you never saw, just by watching him or reading, his articles and his
Right.
reviews. So, but anyway, but instead I just went with the full-on information side of it.
No, that's good. I thought of some other. I thought of like maybe Schooled or something, but like it seemed like all the really informational ones I was considering like had too much of a like an agenda to
Bias.
push. Yeah, or bias. Where I was like, it's like, was that really informative? They didn't really give me the other side of the thing, so I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean that one, and I know you didn't. I think as I recall, we disagreed on Cool It, but I think it at least like the reason I put it in the informational category, even though it was a totally agenda orientated kind of biased film, was it did address you know, all of the counterpoints. And some of the ones that we had that were like biased films, like Soaked in Bleach, was just like whoop threw all the counterpoints out the window. It didn't address any of that. It just said this is how it should be, and when anything that could potentially conflict with that answer, we're just thrown out the window. At least Cool It was like, well, hey, they say the oceans could rise. Well, this is looking at all the data, this is how much it probably will rise, and this is what that probably means. So at least they addressed the topic and threw a bunch of data out there. Maybe it's all crap, but it was thrown out there at least.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Mm.
All right. This is one I'm excited about. This next category. Most interesting person in a documentary. Whew. This is like almost like our best actor. What are you gonna do for this one?
This is all right. After much consideration, because we had obviously, if you're being featured in a documentary, you're probably interesting. But,
All right.
I went with Rick Hall from Muscle Shoals, the
Okay.
founder of the Fame Studio. His background was really interesting. He was a totally flawed person, and a totally amazing person. He had just a really broad spectrum of life experience, and then and plus you were seeing him at the end of his life, so like he looked back even and was like, yeah, these were like super hot-headed things that I did, and I was passionate about them at the time and told these people to go screw themselves, and now we're friends because I realized, I was being an idiot back then. And like it was just like he just seemed like a really interesting dude to me. And then plus like his history was full of just tragic and horrific
Right.
events, and like it really, and yet he helped sculpt what music is in America today. So recall, there's my choice.
Nice. I cannot argue with that. I could have just answered Muscle Shoals for like half the categories. I feel like this. I'm I'm in love with it. All right. For me, I went with. I got to read this name. Baroness Eloise von Wagner in the Galapagos Affair. So
Uh,
she was the woman who came to the Galapagos Island like after like the little first couple people had been there, and she just like threw the world into disarray. And apparently she was like maybe a baroness, maybe not. There's all this crazy stuff about her. Like no one understood like what she was. Apparently she was just like this crazy sexual magnetism where no one could resist her. Even though when you look at her in the pictures, you're like, not that cute. But she like her mere presence could like destroy this like a community. And like there's just so many the mysterious events that happen at the end of the documentary around her and stuff like. Oh man, she's just a interesting person that the documentary is unable to provide most of the answers about. So that's probably why she stuck with me. Is like this, like even after the documentary, it's like, what's up with her? What happened? Tell me what happened with her. So that was
Interesting. Good choice.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other people that you want to call out as being particularly interesting?
Yeah. Let's see. James Bulger in Whitey, The People of the United States versus James Bulger.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he was a horrible person, but he was also very interesting. I mean, like he was a
Right.
monster, but just to see like the backstory of how a monster is made, essentially, and then like what he's like. You know what I mean? When you see him and you hear him talk, you're not like that guy's the devil. You're like, huh? He seems pretty much like a normal guy. I mean, he's at at this point in his life anyway. So I thought he was a really interesting person, and then also Roger Ebert. I guess I keep harping on life itself. Apparently, I really really dug that, but yeah, I put him up for a potential as well.
Nice, nice, well done.
Yeah,
Yeah, trying to think of if there's anybody else. I mean, I guess like Ali is super interesting, as you said. There's a lot of possibilities for this one.
yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's go to the other side of the coin with the most eccentric or crazy person in a documentary. I got my fingers crossed that we could pick the same person for this. Let's see.
Yeah. All right. Again, a lot of stiff competition for this one.
Yeah, yeah, there is.
In the end, I went with Joyce McKinney from Tabloid. No
We did
way.
it.
Did it? All right. Boom. We nailed it. So
Nice.
cheers. Do you have a drink?
Take that, Vegas. I do. Just
All right.
hoist my
Cheers.
water to you.
Oh, there we go. Cheers to Joyce McKinney.
Mhm.
She was hard to beat just because, especially like, you know what? I don't think I would have put her in there until it got to the cloning of her dogs at the end.
Right.
And then, yeah, that kind of put her over the top for me where, yeah, she's crazy, crazy person.
I was thinking about because I was like looking back at some of the episodes a little bit, and I was looking at that one, and I did watch the little part where we were talking about the cloning of the dog, and I was thinking, man, I need to make like a sampler, like an hour of our greatest little bits, so people can listen to. We can push out there, and people can listen to it, see if they
Oh,
want to
yeah.
listen to the podcast. That would definitely be on the list. Us talking about the dog cloning. We were just both like, what is going on? What the hell is going on?
It's a hard one to swallow.
Yeah.
Especially at the end of everything else. It was like, wow, she seemed like she couldn't top her craziness, but there it is.
She kept rolling. Just because the documentary was over didn't mean she
No.
stopped being crazy. Uh,
Yeah. Any honorable mentions for?
yeah. The one actually I'd written down until I remembered about good old Joyce was the woman from Queen of Versailles. I
Jackie
considered her
Siegel?
strongly. Hmm.
Yep. I had her down as another possibility. Um, and then you know who else I put on my most eccentric crazy person list?
No?
Jeff Skilling from Enron.
Oh,
The
nice.
Yeah, I think he deserves a potential craziest person win. I mean, like he ran a corporation like a madman, and in like ways that I was just blown away by. I remember there were so many shocking moments in that
All
documentary where I
right.
was like, wow, like I always like make fun of people and they're like, corporations are these evil, horrible things. I'm like, nah, you know, they're just like a big conglomerate and there's no like, but no, that kind of put me put me on my place. And I watched that. I was like, yeah, it's a horrible, evil thing that really does exist.
Yeah, the Enron documentary is one that I for some reason never considered for any categories. I don't know why. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I know it wasn't the best documentary in the world, but it did have some really
Oh yeah, there's some
great.
great parts. Great,
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
absolutely.
But, I mean, if we're talking eccentric, we gotta consider the guy from Burt's Bees. That guy
Sure,
was pretty eccentric.
pretty eccentric. He would have made the list of possibles. Really, the guys from all that mayhem would have
Mhm.
the two skateboarders. I mean, like they were just crazy druggies in a lot of ways, but also really good skaters, kind of until they got super drugged
Right.
out.
So
Yeah,
Tony Hawk screwed him over.
that's right.
Um, all right, I'm gonna take us in a completely different direction. Jonathan, what is the best documentary you saw this year that we did not review for our podcast? And by the way, I want to say that I'm always impressed because every once in a while you're like, yeah, I watched this other documentary this week. Like, whoa, you watch documentaries aside from our podcast? Well done.
Right. Yeah, the funny thing is, there were yeah, there were quite a few documentaries I saw outside of ours, and I ended up going with one called Forks Over Knives, which probably a lot of people have heard of, and I think I nominated it for potential. And I did watch it once this year, although I've seen it prior to this year. But it's all about essentially being vegan versus eating meat, and like so that's one that I think is really cool and really intriguing. Whether you agree with it or not, I think it's worth I think it throws a lot of like thoughts and ideas out there that you can you know at least take the time to consider, if not agree with. So I threw that one down.
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
Um, I like it. I've seen that one as well, and I liked it. The one I went with for this, I totally forgot what category we were talking about for a second. I was like, what? Scrolling on my list. All right, so the one I went with for this, and I saw a couple good ones, but the one that I ended up going with was the kind of documentary miniseries, The Jinx on HBO, um, which which yeah, like it's hard to talk about like what's so interesting about it without like ruining some of the super important details towards the end. But it's like it's one of those things when you watch it, you're just like, oh my god, if this was like in a fictional movie, like this would not make it in there because it's so absurd. It's like definitely one of those like life being way stranger than fiction kind of things.
That's crazy. Good call. I've never seen it, so and actually I know we talked about it at one point of because it's a series of watching the Jinx and then reviewing
Right.
it, but um, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
have to get on that.
And if you do watch it, you'll watch like the first episode, and the other interesting thing about it is like the first episode, maybe the first even episode and a half or two episodes, like just seems like a standard, like almost like could be like a 2020, just like a standard investigation of a crime thing. And then like quickly things start to get weird from there and and ways that I don't want to spoil right now. But yeah, definitely worth watching.
Interesting. Cool. Anything else that was close to your honorable mentions?
Yeah, Harmontown was another one that I really liked a lot. It kind of hits a lot of the same sort of themes, I guess, as indie games. It's about Dan Harmon, the guy who created the show. Um, Community and Rick and
Oh
Morty.
yeah.
He kind of like after he gets fired from his show, he starts his podcast and like takes it on this tour across the country, and it's like following him on his tour. But definitely, like he's basically exactly like the guys in indie games, like the same level of neuroses and stuff like that. And,
Oh cool. Well, that could be interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
How about
Yeah, I
yourself?
saw
Anything else?
I saw one that I wish we would have done for our show for the podcast. Not that it was the best documentary ever, but it was called Dogfight, and it's about like basically like these guys in Florida have like kind of like a little mini version, an informal version of like the UFC, where they just like charge a
No.
bunch of neighborhood people to come in and watch a couple guys in the neighborhood beat the crap out of each other with no rules. But like one of the main like there were a lot of really intriguing parts about the documentary, and one of which that was mind blowing was several of the so like it's a really really low income area, um, so a lot of people struggling, a lot of issues in the community around them. Several of the main cast members of the documentary, the main people being focused on, die during the course of the documentary.
Oh no.
Like, yeah, and it's just like, what? And not from fighting, from from other stuff
All right.
in their community. And you're just like, it's just crazy to see, like, wow, yeah, that just not just one person, not just one random event, but
All right.
yeah.
Yeah, I've that's been on my list to watch for a while, so I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, check it out. Well, there's a mini spoiler, so now it'll be like a little mystery thing
Like,
while you're
oh
watching it.
man,
Like,
I don't care
oh,
about this
I don't
character.
want to get too attached to any of these guys. I know.
Right. Oh, that guy's for sure gonna die.
Right.
All right. How about the documentary you've thought about the most since you watched it?
Whew. All right. I went with one that stuck with me for quite a while after watching it. I know this won't be the same as yours, but one of our ones we did early on was Something Ventured, and
Hmm.
I really like. There were a lot of elements about that documentary that I really liked and that I really thought about, and it was a lot of it was how you have to take huge risk, and sometimes it pays off. I mean, sometimes it doesn't, and like in my personal life, I, I'm not very risk adverse. I'm always kind of an optimist and to tend to go for like this will work out and I'm going to totally go for it and that kind of thing. So it kind of stuck with me, and like the people and the way they went about what they did, in a business sense, always stuck with me after seeing it and probably still has. But I think that was
Cool.
my number one, continue to think about it after seeing the documentary. You?
Nice. Yeah, it's interesting that you picked that because I picked one that kind of like uh, relates to my life, I think, and that was Room 237, documentary about all the crazy interpretations of The Shining. Like I think about that a lot, especially when I'm like I do book review YouTube videos, and a lot of times like I kind of like get pretty in depth with like the themes and stuff like that. And a lot of times I'm like, am I am I just reading crazy stuff into this that is not actually here? Am I turning into Room 237 people? And then like also just in my own writing, I always find it interesting what people think and what different ideas they have, and they're sure that I put in there on purpose that are just things that they're reading into it. So I think about that a lot.
That's cool. One thing I really like the fact that I know you, and then like to hear you say like, yeah, I get these theories or ideas that people are sure that I put into my work that you
All right.
didn't, or at least not intentionally, which makes you really think like I don't know. I mean, like yeah, it makes me think the people room 237 were pretty crazy, but it also makes me think like art takes on a life of its own once you release out into the world. I like that idea.
Right. Me too. Me too. All right, cool. Any others notables you want to mention for that one?
Let's see. Oh, the other one that I they were all things that kind of pertain to my life. The ones that I thought of the most afterwards. Race to Nowhere was one of them that, again, not the greatest documentary ever made, but it really really ever since I watched it has made me like step back and think about, what am I doing with my children in especially pertaining to academics and pushing them, and how much is that worth, and how much is it worth to have them just enjoy their childhood. So that one really stuck with me too. Probably the ones I think about the most.
Yeah, cool.
Cool.
All right, let's go on to what was a good one. What documentary made you the angriest?
Ooh, let's see.
Angry man.
My I went with none of them made me super angry, but I went with Schooled, The Price of College Sports, because there were a lot of
Okay.
parts in there where I was just like, it did make me angry. I was like, man, especially when like it's like that argument kind of reminded me, like for me personally, about like the like argument against like gay marriage, where like you'd have like some people just being like no because it's never been that way, and I just want to
Right.
just strangle them and be like, oh no, that you can't use that as an argument, that's so you can't take away someone's rights or like, deny someone, just fair treatment and respect you're because that's how it's done. That's horrible. And there was a lot of that in Schooled, where you just had
Right.
so that did make me angry when I was watching it, where I was just like, no, you can't say that or think that, but obviously people do.
Right. Right. Okay. I picked and this almost made the list for the one that I thought about the most, but it was a pretty recent one we did, so I couldn't go with it just because I don't know how it's going to hold up over the months and years if I'm still going to think about it. But whenever I think about this documentary, it seems like I get madder about it, and that's Kumari. Like for some reason, like every once in a while, I think about that documentary. I'm like, God, that guy's a jerk. Like, and I'm always like sitting here thinking about, like, God, what a stupid experiment, man. He's so
That's interesting. That's hilarious to me. That
yeah. Like I was thinking about how like this whole thing about, oh, you don't need a guru, your guru's inside of you. Like how that's such like a Eastern philosophy thing. That's like the very thing that he's trying to. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to get into it now.
I can tell that is the number one with the bullet for you, QT. Did you even
Yeah.
have a runner up, or were you just like,
No, no. I got nothing else for that one. How about
that's
you?
that's um you know what, the other one that I thought about for that was misrepresentation. And honestly, like, I hadn't thought about it since I saw it, so I couldn't remember, but I do remember like thinking that that one pissed me off. um yeah, I remember there were a couple. Again, if I think if it would have been closer to the time we saw that, I probably would have picked that for
Mhm.
my most angry one. Um, Not that I'm against, women's right. I'm totally for equality of women, but like the way that it presented it, it was like, oh my God, you've got an opportunity to talk about something really important, and you have a wealth of information that could be presented here in a way that is undeniable, and instead they just kind of like went all one-sided on it and like kind of whiny, and like they didn't acknowledge like advancements in women's rights. And there's like a ton of things where I was like, oh, not just a missed opportunity, and then the way they put it together, just like, again, I just thought it was poorly done. And I remember, obviously that one made me a little angry, still thinking about it now.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Let's take a look at. Okay, this was another good one. What was the most one-sided documentary?
Ah, I didn't realize that. Misrepresentation. That's what I picked for
Okay,
that. So that's probably why I didn't pick it for most angry. So
interesting.
yeah, I
So
thought.
that would does maybe give me pause because what is the other side that you would like to see?
um again, it's been so long since I saw it, but it was I can remember, again, it's been whatever, almost a year ago since we saw it. and
Right.
uh and I remember thinking that way when I watched it, because they were like, they were just talking about like how like horrible women have it, and not to say that it's not equal, but it was like, they, they totally wouldn't acknowledge the last 100 years of massive advancements, where it's like, okay, suffrage has occurred, like we can legitimately have a female president. I think like, we obviously we haven't yet, but that I don't think I don't think a qualified candidate would lose because she's a woman at this point. And there's just a ton of things, that they just didn't like. They didn't acknowledge any advancements in equal rights for women over any period of time ever. And it was just like, hey, yes, there's a way to go, but you got to be like, you can't just be like, this is the horrible, most worst system. It's like, wow, we've come a long way. We're kind of a forerunners in the world. I mean, there are other countries that are better, but we're not doing too terrible for women's rights. And none of that was presented. None of it was acknowledged. And it was like, yeah, you can totally present the argument that we've got a long way to go, but you can also say like, hey, we look at this path that we followed and how it got here. We can continue to do that, or this is what we did, and this is how we can speed that up. If we look back at the past and see how this can pertain. But as soon as you put it all like, kind of like society totally screws women and it's horrible and blah blah, and you just keep hammering that point and hammering that point and hammering that point, which is kind of that documentary. that's where the one-sidedness came in. It's like, well, then you start to lose people because you're like, well, hey, wait, what about this? What about that? And then all of a sudden you're not. Then all of a sudden you're like, well, this is just crap. And that was kind of the feeling I got. And I'm like, hey, you got a great subject and a great, you got a platform here. You just made a documentary about it to make people aware of the areas we need to improve and where we can go. And I just thought they blew it. So
Okay,
that was
fair
why
enough.
I picked that for One Sided. You?
Sounds good. I don't remember that documentary very well. My main complaint that I remember about that documentary is like there's so many statistics and they came up so fast it was like almost impossible to read.
Yeah.
That's the main thing I can remember about it.
I do remember pausing it a lot and then like pausing / rewinding to like be like, wait, they just flashed 5,000 statistics on the screen. You gotta give me 10 seconds. Give me 10 seconds to read them.
Right. All right. So I thought about this one a lot because this might be my most thought about topic because there's so many one-sided
There
documentaries.
were, yeah.
It was like ridiculous. So I thought of stuff like inequality for all was one that I thought of a lot. Um, but like the reason I didn't go with that one in particular was because that was like just basically presenting a pretty like liberal view of economics, and like it's pretty easy to, if I wanted to find the opposing view, be like, I could look at, okay, what's a conservative view of economics, and it would be pretty easy for me to like see that other side of it, even though they did not present it at all. So the documentary I went with was actually Cool It for this.
That
And
would have been my guess for your pick on this.
right. And my reason why is like it'd be so insanely difficult to fact check all that stuff, and like the way they present it. Like obviously, the majority of scientists in the world don't agree with a lot of the things that he was saying, but they didn't say where, and he was just like, oh, well, look at the numbers and you can tell, blah blah blah. It would be really hard for me as a layperson to go into all those and like fact check them. So I would like to see a little balance. But like on the other hand, it was like a documentary about that guy, so I understand that he's not going to be like, no, let's bring in 10 experts to say why this guy's wrong, and it's a documentary about him. That's
Right.
personally well.
Yeah, and they did have several. Like again, like, and I can totally see where Cool It is on the list of one-sided documentaries. It was on mine too, but one of the reasons I didn't pick that was because they did have like essentially like his arch nemesis guy, the guy that was like
Right,
thought
they
that
did.
guy was the devil, and they didn't make that guy look like a jackass. I mean, because you could have done that, especially if you were that guy Bajorn and you were like, yeah, I hate this guy. He's always calling me evil and like the worst person for environmental stuff, and it really did appear that guy really cared about the environment. But they did show his arch nemesis, and he made his points, and then he
Right.
did counter all those points and say how he was right about him, but at least he gave that guy his chance to throw in his 2 cents and a couple other people. So, but anyway,
Fair enough.
yeah,
I can't disagree.
yeah, and I can't knock that choice. Like I said, it was certainly a one-sided documentary overall.
Cool. Any others you wanted to highlight before we jump on to the next one?
On the one-sided
Yeah.
thing, Soaked in Bleach, I think that could obviously have been
That
a
probably should
winner.
have been both, I think.
Yeah, that was up there for a choice. I liked it and actually agreed with it, but probably you could put Fed Up in that category as well. Again, there were quite a few one-sided documentaries we watched, so those ones all could have gotten there.
Yeah, cool. All right, let's talk about. And by the way, you might want to fix your mic. It's totally scratching against your.
Oh, is it? Oh, yes. It's sorry. It's gone back over to my. There we go.
Unwieldy mic. All right, this is another really hard category for me, and that was best subject matter.
Yeah, I didn't even know how to start on this one.
Yeah,
because even the documentaries we saw this year that I didn't like, a lot of them were subject matter that I thought was amazing. And yeah, I went with one that pertained to me. That's how I ended up making my pick. And it was one that I said I've thought about a lot, and that was Race to Nowhere.
okay.
Subject matter being, how do we, push our children? What's the proper way to educate them, and in a way that actually matters and not just gets good test scores. So for me, that's what I went with. I can I'm arguably wrong for sure. But
No, I mean, that's definitely good subject matter. I would like to see, and maybe a good testament to that is I would like to see like 3 or 4 other documentaries about that same topic that take
me
different
too.
angles on it and things like that. So yeah, good pick there. I picked, like I said, I had a really hard time with this. I ended up picking one that like a lot of times where documentaries lose me a little bit is when they get too big and too broad, and I think a lot of times the narrower focus, the better in a lot of documentaries. So I went with the Werner Herzog movie Into the Abyss that just focused on that one murder and showed like from different sides of it. Like obviously looking at a murder in a documentary is not a unique or innovative thing to make a documentary about, but I think that the way approached it really in-depth way he talked to all the different people and just how his whole approach to it. So if you, I guess the topic being like, let's take one murder and look at it in this one specific way. So,
Yeah. One, I'm glad you picked it because that I didn't pick Into the Abyss for any of my actual winning awards things, but it was on my like nominations for potential best documentary.
yeah.
So I'm glad it got picked there. I thought that was an amazing documentary. Um, yeah, and his yeah, I'm a little torn on your choice there because like I don't again like the subject matter was kind of a murder trial, which probably
Right.
isn't, I mean, that's not necessarily the best subject matter, like you said, but the way he looks at it, like the human quality of it, was amazing. So
Yeah.
probably the lowest production value could have been
Yeah.
that,
Totally.
but
Totally.
still one of the best documentaries. So
Yeah. I think like If You Build It would be another one that would be really high on my list of best topics. I thought that was great topic. Like how would we ever? That's just something cool. Where like obviously we would never know that that was going on if not for that
true.
documentary.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was a really good one. That one was on my potential most inspiring moments too. Was If
Yeah,
You
me
Build
too.
It. Yeah.
When they were putting up the chicken coops, that was my inspiring moment in that one.
That was yeah, there yeah, it was kind of like the I think right at the moment where they were like, yeah, so we're just the school board said they're not going to pay us, and so we just kept going and doing it. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
these
that
people
was
are
great.
really give a crap about
All
something,
right,
But
good
anyway,
job,
yeah,
those guys.
yeah, good
All
job,
right, we
those
got
guys.
we got we got 2 bummer categories in a row here. Let's do what was the hardest documentary to watch?
Couple, I had two that were like 50, like coin flip for my choice. The one I went with
Okay.
was Barunga.
Mm,
Uh, Not because it was, not hard to watch because it was, a bad documentary, but hard to watch because there was no good moments in this documentary.
right.
It just went from like, it was like, wow, that's sad and depressing. I didn't think they could top it, but yeah, now it's getting a little more sad and a little more depressing. Oh yeah, it's just horrific. This is like the worst thing ever. Oh look, I just lost a little more faith in humanity. That was kind of the theme of Barunga. Great documentary though. I mean, like everyone should watch it, but it's a tough watch.
Right.
So
But
yeah,
what was your other coin flip possibility?
my other coin flip was really the flip side of the same coin, and the reason I went with Barunga is because I like that documentary better. But the other one was they call it Myanmar.
Okay.
That was the other one again for the same reason, and probably I should have picked that one because not only was it like hard to watch for like the emotional content of like how rough that society had it, but then like the actual documentary quality was way worse. So like it literally was hard to watch from time to time. Like they're like showing people's feet for 30% of the documentary for real reasons. They could have like gotten
Right.
in huge trouble for filming, but anyway.
That was a sick burn. Well done.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you.
all right, the one I picked was one that I think you probably disqualified because it's not actually on our feeds anymore because of the bad sound quality. But it was Hot Girls Wanted, the amateur porn documentary that we did. There's a lot of tough moments to watch in that. Specifically, the one that I remember that leaps out at me is the that girl like trying to tell her dad that she's like doing porn and like Like now that parents and stuff like that thinking about that. Oh my God, that was rough to watch.
Fair enough. Yeah, there's that, and like the scene that like really sticks out for me in that documentary, which is only like a super little part, and technically footage of footage, is like there's a forced blowjob website that some of the girls go on, and it's not it. Like I was unaware that that was a thing or existed, but it is so. I mean, like so horrific. Like
Yeah, it's
so.
highly upsetting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's highly upsetting.
And it's upsetting that like gets people off, and it's also upsetting
Right.
that
Yeah.
like when there a lot of their stats too, and that were upsetting, like that porn is watched more than like Netflix and stuff like that. It's like, what? Can that be
Yeah.
even true?
Right. I mean, could that even be true? Like I thought that a lot during that. I mean, like maybe. I guess so. I believe it. I guess that they're got their information from somewhere, but
Right.
right.
That was a
Anyway.
rough one.
Yeah. Good answer. Good call. But
Thank you. All right, this is the downer category. We're going to get the hate mail from some director here. What was the worst overall documentary?
all right. Worst overall. I think. Yeah. I had for mine was Soaked in Bleach. I
Okay.
I at about 20 minutes in, one, I didn't like the style of it, where they just because again, like it wasn't a real documentary style. It was like reenactments of stuff that might have happened, or some person's version of it. So it was almost like it would almost be like this was kind of like renting the movie Ali with Will Smith versus watching the documentary Trials of Muhammad Ali.
Right.
Where I was like, oh, how many actors can we have in this documentary before it's just a film? And so I hated that part of it. And then there were some parts like I didn't buy in. Like again, this could have gone in on the one-sided category where it was like, I could have bought some of your conspiracy theory stuff, but not when you're just like, oh, Kurt Cobain was just really happy and not even depressed. Wait, it's like a heroin junkie that just got out of rehab and was getting a divorce and his career is falling apart. It's like it's pretty hard argument to make that he was in a super good mood.
Right.
So anyway,
That
that was
is good pick. All right, so I had kind of weird approach to this one. I like I thought of some of the documentaries I really didn't like, but then I was like, man, a lot of those like really did make me think and stuff like that. So I don't know if I want to call them the worst because they did achieve the goal of making me consider something or think about things or like elicited anger in me, like Kumari or whatever. So the one I went with is I went to our website and looked through all the documentaries, and I came across one and I was like, wait, did we even watch that? I did not remember watching that at all. And it was Storm Surfers.
Oh,
The documentary that left zero impact on me whatsoever. I think back to it, I'm like, I kind of remember something, I guess. I don't know. There's waves. And so that's the one I went with because it left basically zero impression on me whatsoever.
I love it. I love that style of choice for worst documentary. It's a good way to go about it.
Cool. Any others that were on your list that you want to? Any other directors you want to piss off while we're out of here?
Which one? Like, so here's kind of how I came to my final decision. So my other one that I did not like that I put on there was Back in Time. Was my,
Okay.
But my big difference was Back in Time. I thought was, I totally wish Back in Time would have been like 30 minutes long. You know what I mean?
Right. You just thought it was boring, basically.
Yeah, I thought it was boring, and I thought it just like stretched out and like put too much emphasis on something that. But at the end, I looked at Back in Time, and I was like, it was boring. And I didn't really like it. I didn't like the style, but it certainly didn't do anything bad. You know what I mean? Like the world is not a worse place because Back in Time was made. It's
all right.
But it maybe wasted an hour of somebody's life, but no big deal. And then Soaked in Bleach, I was like, I really didn't like anything about like the style or the actual documentary, and I think it makes the world a little bit worse of a place because now, there's just more people that are mad about something that probably never happened a long time ago, and so yeah.
Okay, cool. I like that approach as well. All right, let's get to the big one here.
Wait. We still have a most mind blowing moment.
Oh yeah, let's get
Yeah,
past
don't
that.
forget
Okay,
about that.
what's your most mind blowing moment? Blow my
Um,
mind. It better blow my mind.
this one I still think about to this day. In the movie Enron, Smartest Guys in the World, when they go through and actually figure out, like, they have the recorded phone conversations, that the traders on the Enron floor are literally shutting down the power in California, causing rolling blackouts so that they can make money on options for energy trading. Like, that blew my mind. I was like, there were quite a few moments in a lot of different films that blew my mind, but that one stood out where I was just like, that really happened? That can't have really happened. There's no way. No one could just be sitting in their office being like, well, some people may die. It'll certainly inconvenience an entire state. You have huge economic impacts. Probably cause some traffic accidents. But it's going to be good for business. So let's shut that down. I just didn't think that was possible, but clearly
Right.
it is.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is a mind blowing moment. I completely forgot about that one, but I sign off. My mind has been reblown. Um, my mind blowing moment is it's a little bit of a smaller one, but it's from Kids for Cash, and it's just when the one of the parents is kind of just like telling the story about how they're tells the whole story about how their kid got arrested and went to court, and then like 2 minutes later is like being hauled off in leg irons or whatever. I was like that's when I had to pick that one because that's when I was like literally like standing up being like, what the hell's going on here? Like I went and talked to my wife and I was like, you gotta come in here and see this. So that's my most mind blowing moment.
Yeah, good choice. I had that on my list of possibilities.
Nice.
Yeah.
Another one I picked was in the what's the one called Point and Shoot. Yeah, that's the one, right? Point and
Yeah.
Shoot, where the guy goes and fights. Is when he like decides to go back and rejoin the fight. That was like kind of a mind blowing moment. Like after he has been held prisoner and all that stuff. Because like at the same time, like I was both like, wow, that's really brave, and wow, that's really stupid, and like wasn't sure whether to be like mad at him or be supporting him. It's just a moment that I was very conflicted about.
Sure. There's another good one. Yeah, I thought about this for mine. This one actually was a potential for a couple different categories for me, including mind blowing moment. Also potential for saddest moment for me was in They Call It Myanmar,
Mm-hmm.
where there's a kid that has like this open like
Oh
laceration,
yeah,
like sore thing on his or her arm, and there's a doctor that's just like licking their fingers, poking it. It's like, what? At least put a glove on, sterilize yourself,
right.
do something. Yeah, but no, not at all. They threw some leeches on that kid's open wound and sent him out the door.
Right. Man, you're bringing back a lot of painful memories here. It's like a therapy session, this podcast.
Right.
Good one. All right, I'm just going to look through the list quick and make sure I didn't miss any others. Since I
No,
just missed the one.
I think that was it. I've been checking off all the
Okay.
categories we've been going through.
Cool. All
So
right, so it's the big boy. Everybody, get ready. This is the moment they've been waiting for. Let's go to get our high price commercials out of the way first, and then okay, we're back. What is our best overall documentary that we watched in 2015?
this is the one that I thought we might agree on.
Okay.
Pretty strong
If you
one.
pick Cool It, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, no, Queen of Versailles for sure with the bullet. No, just kidding.
Nice.
No, I went with Muscle Shoals. That was one that again, I it was up for half the categories for me. Like most thought about, most interesting. In fact, that was the only documentary that had two picks for me, which was most interesting, subject, and then her character, whatever you want to call it, and then best overall. I thought it was. There were some other good ones, but it was almost like magical, like the whole way it was put together, all the elements of it, the story behind it. So that did it for me. That was my number one choice.
Nice. Well done. I cannot argue. That's an amazing documentary. Definitely one of my favorites. It's not the one I picked though. So I had a really hard time. I narrowed this down to a few, and what I ended up doing, and probably the reason that Muscle Shoals did not make it, is I ended up like discounting. So like I had indie games, I had Muscle Shoals, and I had Hoop Dreams, and then I had the one that I picked. And the way I ended up deciding was those other three I had seen before we did the podcast. So I decided to kind of like, so since it was so close, I canceled those out and not pick those because I had already seen them prior to the podcast. So the one that I did pick is Life Itself. Was my winner.
Darn it! I wish I would have just guessed before you said that, because that would have been my guess. Because when you
Nice.
name the ones you didn't pick, and I looked over my other choices, Life Itself is definitely right there on my. I also threw. I would have. I guess I would have guessed Life Itself for you, which is an awesome pick. That's a phenomenal documentary. And go ahead, and I'll let you talk before I keep
Yeah,
interrupting.
yeah. I don't know. There's something about just a few of those. I feel like Life Itself has a lot of the same kind of magical qualities that I think Muscle Shoals and Indie Games and a couple of the others that I like. And I don't know how to put it into words exactly, but just watching it, I feel like it was a life affirming experience and kind of just changed the way I look at things in a really small and subtle way. And I just loved it. There you go. Anything you want to add about Life Itself?
Yeah, and I think anyone out there listening, that alone says why you should watch some of these documentaries, because they will. Like I think great films do that too, but I think there are so many more documentaries that accomplish it than films do. Like every once in a while you see a film and like at the end you're like, wow, that really kind of made me think and really is making me re-examine the way I hit on life in a couple different ways. But I think a lot of these documentaries, like I had several, and all of them kind of did that to a point. Muscle Shoals and Life Itself were my top two choices. I thought they were, again, just really made you step back and think about life. And um, then I also had Into the Abyss up there for one of my top potentials. I had a distant runner that I really liked, and I knew it couldn't like it. It wasn't the best one, but I didn't hit any other categories, so I wanted to like try and force it in somewhere. But was Exit Through the Gift Shop, which we haven't even mentioned
Yeah,
on this
that's not even
list.
making lists.
Didn't even
That's
make a
sad.
list. Yeah, and that was a phenomenal documentary. I did consider it actually for most eccentric person, for
Yeah,
what's his name, that
right.
Banks.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember his name.
yeah, and it really could have turned around too. That could have, I didn't think about it at the time, but for most interesting person also could have been Banksy. I thought that
True.
guy's a really interesting guy, and really like every time he talked, I was always like, ooh, oh yeah, this guy, that makes sense. This guy's brilliant, like whether he is or not. But every time he spoke, he just kind of draws you in and has a very cool perspective on art and life. Anyway, and then I also threw Something Ventured on my potential list, but only because I don't think it was necessarily the best documentary, but it meant a lot to me, and I did like it. I think it was a great documentary. But
Cool.
anyway,
The others that were on my short list were Into the Abyss was on there, and I that was another close one, but I felt like that just didn't like inspire me or change, affect me in the same way that that Life Itself did, but definitely respect it and like it a lot. And then the other one was the Galapagos Affair, which didn't end up going with because I'm not sure like it was that great of a documentary when I thought about it. But like the story it told was so fascinating that it made me put it on the short list. But I was like the way they told the story was like it was fine, but there's nothing mind blowing about the way they told it. So yeah, I think those were all my picks.
well, cool.
It's been an exciting and great year of documentaries. I remember like 3 or 4 episodes in, we were like, man, we're gonna run out of documentaries pretty soon here, and like not have any good ones.
Notice it turns out there's pretty much a limitless list.
They are definitely making them faster than we are reviewing.
Yeah. Although you know what, I did looking back over the list and everything we did start with some really heavy hitters. Like the
Mm-hmm.
first, yeah, so the first couple we did was Psalm, which was amazing. Particle Fever, also incredible. Something Ventured, Muscled Shoals, and Euro Dreams of Sushi. Those were the first ones we started off with. So we did some great picks out the gate.
Yeah.
Then it wasn't until then the one after that was Tiny, something that we didn't mention at all tonight, and reasonably so.
Right. Maybe we should have had a category that was like, good job for the money. That was probably you did a good job.
Most adequate documentary though.
Best use of $10,000. Nicely done. All right. Anything else before we wrap this bad boy up and send these wonderful directors on their way?
No, I think we covered it all. It's a great bunch of documentaries. If you want to see any of the documentaries we mentioned this evening, go ahead and log on to the Documentary Review podcast and you can .com, and you can go or look us up on iTunes. You can see all these as episodes for everything we even remotely mentioned for a second or two, plus a whole bunch more. We covered them all this last year, and really any of them are worth your time, except for Soaked in Bleach. You can skip that.
All right. Do you have any picks for next week?
I don't have anything set up for next week.
All right, I've got a few if you want me to.
Okay, cool.
Give them to you. Okay. First one, since Trump is kind of in the news these days a lot. This documentary is called Small Potatoes, and it's a documentary about the United States Football League, which in the 1980s was like an upstart football league that was trying to like take on the NFL. And I've seen this documentary, and Donald Trump was one of the owners of one of these teams, and he plays a huge part. So you can learn about 1980s Donald Trump and his dream of owning an NFL football team. So that's one. The next one would be Chasing Tyson. This film follows boxer Evander Holyfield's journey to take on the controversial Mike Tyson in the aftermath of their unforgettable first match. And then the last up, this is a series, so I don't know, maybe we could watch like the first two episodes maybe of this if we pick this one. This just came on Netflix like yesterday, I think. It's called Making a Murder. It's a Netflix original series or whatever, miniseries. Filmed over 10 years, this real-life thriller follows a DNA exoneree who, while exposing police corruption, becomes a suspect in a grisly new crime. There you
go. Okay.
So we got Small Potatoes, Chasing Tyson, or the first two episodes of Making a Murder.
Ooh. I think I'm going to cross out Making a Murder because I want to stick with an actual documentary, not the series. Darn it. I like Chasing Tyson. I like that was one that was kind of something that I wanted to watch anyway. But we just did Muhammad Ali. In fact, I don't even know if that's. Yeah, I don't even think that's posted yet, is it?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what the heck? I don't. Maybe I'll be shocked and become a Trump supporter after watching Small Potatoes.
Spoilers, you will not like Trump any more than you do now.
I've got to. I'm not. Okay, Trump's. But probably not.
Oh wow! I just noticed that this documentary is 51 minutes long, so we're gonna have a short one next week.
Okay.
Or 2 weeks from now, whenever we do.
Well, I was gonna say whenever we get back on it, because let me look at it's kind of lame, but I'm gonna look up my calendar really quick. Oh, next Tuesday, the 29th.
Yes, you're around for that.
50-50. I will be around for that, but I'm leaving for Mexico the next day. So yeah, I think I can do it
before on the Monday, like the day before, or we can do it when you get back. I don't care.
Cool. One way or the other, we'll get it done.
Cool. All right. Well, it's been a great and exciting year, and thank you all for listening. And let's make another year. This next year is going to be. This was just our warm up year, man. We're going to get even
Right,
better.
warming up. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
we're ready to step on the court now. All right. Thank you so much for listening. This is PT. Keep it real. Jonathan cut
Glad
out,
to
but
see
we'll
you next week.